Welcome,
Thank you.
Cathy Davidson to NERCOMP 2015. We're very happy to have you, and we're just going to have a quick 5 questions before your keynote to kind of hear, hopefully get a preview of some of the things that are coming your keynote. So we'll start off with just your keynote is going to address new modes of cognition, learning, and teaching in higher ed. And can you give us an example of what you'll be discussing?
Sure. I'd like to say that the world changed on April 22nd, 1993. And it didn't start with a whimper or a bang, but with a notification of a new kind of software, the Mosaic 1.0 browser that was available to the general public for the first time. And for the first time in history, anyone who had an internet connection could communicate anything they wanted to anyone with an internet connection without a pause button or without an editor. Internet usage went from increased by 250,000% by the end of 1993. Went from 26 websites to 10,000 websites by the end of 1993. So it was a tremendous burst of energy, the biggest we know in the history of technology, of people not just passively receiving media, but actually actively producing it. Our educational system hasn't changed for that. You know, this world of tremendous opportunity and tremendous challenge and danger that we don't prepare students for at all. And we actually, even as citizens, don't prepare ourselves very well for that world.
Excellent, thank you. So what has surprised you most about your research, and in particular its application to higher ed? I know you mentioned, you know, we're not applying these changes that you're discovering, but what are some surprises that you found?
Yeah. Interestingly, some of them are historical, because the more and more I started thinking and doing research on the way we learn, there's totally opposite research findings for the way we learn everywhere except in school. So my basic idea is everything we learn in school is unnatural. So then I wanted to know if it's unnatural, if it's human created, if it's not the way you learn how to play golf or to walk or to even take a driver's test. You know, all these different things that we do in our lives are different than the way we learn in school. Why do we learn in school the way we did? So I went back to the 19th century to read lots of philosophy about training farmers how to be factory workers, training shopkeepers how to be corporate citizens, and learned that there were things that weren't about learning at all, that were institutionalized in the 19th century, but very much about regularization, standardization, learning to take orders, hierarchy, everything that's a production model of learning, nothing that's everything that's a consumption model of learning, nothing about being a producer. It's all about taking knowledge and repeating it back, learning by rote, recitation, nothing about how you actually have an idea and create that idea for anyone else in the world with an internet connection. So we have a really archaic learning system that we have to change.
Excellent. So along those lines, if you were entering college today, what would be your ideal learning experience? How would you want that to look?
Well, actually, I'm about to go interview Mike Wesch at Kansas State University, who I think has just about the perfect learning experience. Mike Wesch was Teacher of the Year a few years ago, and he had his students in his anthropology class make something called Vision of Students Today, which is a famous YouTube video. Millions and millions of people have seen it, where they talk about the problem of being a student today, which is living in a broadcast kind of education when you're actually living in a world that's about production. What he's done this year is he's teaching a general education course on aging, where they're learning everything about aging. The cognition of aging, the ethnography of aging, how people age differently in different cultures, the medicine of aging, the literature of aging. But here's the cool part. They've all moved into a residential home for elderly people. So to me, that's the perfect learning experience. You're not just learning content, you're applying it right away. They've done this so successfully that owner of the nursing home has asked the students to help her come up with a plan for improving nursing care. Well, what the students are doing are meeting with the old people and together coming up with a plan to improve this facility. That to me is not only perfect for education, it's perfect for the world of the internet, and it's perfect for the society we live in right now. Kansas State has a 97% admission rate. It's close to being open admission. It has a very, very reasonable tuition. If Kansas State can do it, we all can.
And that speaks to the next question, which is just, you know, given these new models that you're thinking about, how do we make sure that they are made or that they're used or they're given access to by various disenfranchised student populations?
Well, first of all, I recently made a job switch from Duke University, which is a wonderful, very elite university, to the City University of New York. 82% of our students in the CUNY system graduate without one penny of tuition debt. The reason for that is many of them are on scholarships. I think it's over 60% are first-generation college students, almost that. Less than 23% come from families where the per capita income is $17.5 thousand a year. In New York City, that is very low. So we're talking about that population. I actually think innovation and equity go together. We hear about Stanford, we hear about MIT, but it's really places like LaGuardia Community College, where you're dealing with a very stressed population and very dedicated teachers, that you have the most innovation happen. That's one of the reasons I'm so excited about the Kansas State example too. These are not rich kids. These are everyday kids. This is totally transportable, not only to students, but it helps the society and the community around them. And that's good for everybody, not just the super rich, not just the 1%, not just the 0.3% who are served by the top 10 elite universities, but everybody.
So, this other question, if you could summarize kind of your keynote in a tweet, what would it be?
In a tweet, learn by doing, learn in public, learn by sharing, learn. Hashtag NERCOMP 2015.
I have one actual follow-up question. This has nothing to do with, not much with any of this. When we first heard that you were going to be the keynote, I was like, I was familiar with your professional work and some of the other books that you have published, but I'm like, that really sounds familiar. What is, where did I see that name? And at the time, I happened to be reading the complete works of Ambrose Bierce in a anthology. And
My early unknown career as a beer scholar.
Right, and I kept seeing at the top, I'm like, wait a minute, is that the same Cathy? And so I was just curious, how did you, just, very, very briefly, because, we know you have to go deliver your keynote, but how do you get from Ambrose Bierce to the future of education?
Ambrose Bierce was the most cantankerous oppositional journalist of the Gilded Age. The socioeconomic situation we are in now almost exactly mirrors the income inequality and the educational inequality of Bierce's era. If Ambrose Bierce were alive today, we'd be buddies.
I'll take that. Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Great to talk to you.
Nice talking to you.
Honor to be here.